There's so many things that we should be doing just to make sure we're financially okay.
Are stocks the only way to really build wealth?
If I have a negative reaction because you are earning, more than me and you decide to share that on social media, that's not your problem. That's my problem. I need to work on that. Yeah.
When women invest, they tend to get better returns.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we do. 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, your outgoing expenses, just so that if anything happens, you've got that money to fall back on, because investing is a longer term game.
Do you get your finances in order? Like, you're actually that girl. Love real women stories that help you grow? Hit subscribe and follow, and let's level up together. Now back to the episode. Welcome, I'm Paula Oyinkan, and this is the Paula Oyinkan Show, where our mission is to inspire women like you to become the best version of yourself at every stage of life. Today, again, I'm really excited, as I'm always excited, to be joined by Selina Flavius. And I would like to say that Selina is definitely a finance whiz. She's an author and the founder of Black Girl Finance UK, which is a platform that is dedicated to providing Black women with financial advice. So thank you so much for coming on, Selina.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited too. I feel like our pre-conversation, I'm excited to share some of what we discussed, because I do think we need to speak about these things a lot more as women,
Definitely, yeah.
So, right, first I'm going to get you to pick a card though, because I always get people to pick a conversation card to break the ice.
Okay.
And then you just read the question and answer it.
Oh, what is your greatest strength? Oh, I like this question. I was a bit worried when you said we're going to have conversation cards. I say my greatest strength is I get things done. I think a bit like you. So if I have an idea, I'm going to go for it and try and execute it as quickly as possible to try and, work out the kinks, to try and fail fast, and to try and, just create the idea, bring that idea to life. So I say that's my greatest strength.
I like that, because I do feel like I'm very much a doer, but sometimes I feel like it can be a bit problematic, because I'm at a place where I'm like, okay, just do it. But actually, sometimes I do think you need to think about it before you do it, depending on what it is, just because I always have loads of ideas.
I'm the same. When I started Black Girl Finance, I had loads of ideas and wanted to execute everything. And I think a bit of a learning for me has been that I need to, do 1 or 2 things, do them very, very well, and then I can move on to the next thing. So just being a little bit more strategic rather than, going for everything.
Yeah.
That's been my learning over the last 5 years of running my business.
Yeah. And I like that though, because I feel like you've been very consistent with your business. Because when did Black Girl Finance start?
So I started it in 2019, so just before the pandemic, just before lockdown, just before George Floyd, all of that stuff. And I'm still here 5 years later, which is, sometimes feels like a miracle. Yeah, but I'm still here.
Yeah, and going strong. And I want to go back a bit. So firstly, in your own words, who is Selina Flavius? And then tell us how Black Girl Finance came about.
Yeah, so Selina Flavius is I feel like I'm an ordinary Black girl from Hackney, East London, who has a real passion for elevating my community. The brand is called Black Girl Finance, and the reason why I started Black Girl Finance was because I wanted to create a space for Black women to really hone in and focus in on their finances and financial well-being. I don't know if your audience knows, but there is such a thing as a gender pay gap that exists. Yeah. There's also an ethnicity pay gap, which doesn't get spoken about enough as far as I'm concerned. And I just know that with my experience growing up, when it came to money, I grew up in a household that didn't speak about it. So there was a lot of things that I didn't know about money. So a lot of, I'll give you an example, and it's a quite embarrassing example. So there was one stage where I wanted to take money from my pension. But of course, a pension is something that you invest in for the long term. But because I didn't know how it worked, so, the technical stuff of how it worked, there was a moment where, I was a bit strapped for cash. I called up my pensions provider and I was like, hey, I need to get this money out. And they were like, that's not how pensions works. Yeah. But so this is something that, basic thing, you can go online, you can read about pensions, read about how these things work. But I was so, ill-equipped to know how these things work. So I wanted to again, end that silence when it comes to money. You know, money is quite an uncomfortable topic to talk about for a lot of us. I know that in the community as well, I know that in my community, there is a bit of a stigma, as if, you know, if you talk about money, if you talk about things such as putting insurances in place, you're trying to kill us off. That's what the elders will think. So yeah, I really wanted to break some of the stigmas and start having honest conversations about it. And it's really, really important. I can't stress how important it is for us to take control of our money and finances, whether that's being a woman, whether that's being from the community. I think it's just such an important topic that we need to talk about.
It is
and
so
understand.
important, so important. And do you know what? I feel like let's just get straight into it. How do you get your finances in order? Where's the place to start?
Good question. I think you have to be intentional.
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't be sitting here with you today if I had not become intentional with what I was doing with my money, kind of understanding where I was spending it, understanding firstly actually how much I have coming in, then understanding where I was spending it, because the difference between being able to, you know, be financially stable, grow wealth, you know, step outside and create a business is having that kind of extra income, that extra disposable income that you can then put to work for you or put aside for you. And I think a lot of us, we kind of live on a bit of a treadmill. So we'll go to work and by the end of the month or week or whatever, whenever you get paid, your money is already gone and you have no clue where it is. So I think the very first step is being intentional about understanding, okay, what am I doing with my money? Where is it going? Secondly, understanding, okay, what is it that I want to do with my money as well? I know that you had a question about financial freedom. Financial freedom is different for everybody. You know, we can be here together and we might have really different goals about, you know, what being financially free is. And it's really about understanding, okay, what's important to me? What do I want to use my money to do? And just kind of really being intentional with what you do, basically.
So let's go to, okay, I really want to break this down because honestly, I feel like so many people, like you said, we don't really talk about finances, especially like in the Black community, women as well. Like it's just the, what is it called now?
It's like taboo. It's a little bit taboo.
Yeah, taboo. But as in like, you know, there's on one side as women, we don't talk about finance, but then also as Black people, we don't talk about finance. So being a Black woman now combining that, it's like, even worse, basically. I can't remember that's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. So as a woman, listen to this now. You've already said, okay, we need to figure out where our money is going, how much we're even getting in. So what are the steps that we can put in place to start figuring out, firstly, how much we get? I think most people have an idea of what they get, especially if they work in a corporate world.
Yeah.
But then the element of knowing where that money is going, what would you do? Or what did you do to start knowing where your money was going?
Yeah, so I had to sit down and look at the numbers. So essentially do a budget.
Yeah.
So look at the numbers, what's coming in, what's going out, where is it going? I know that for myself, over kind of lockdown and you know, different experiences, we start putting in place different things. So we might set up a subscription for one thing that we needed at one point at one point of time. And then we might realize, you know, 2-3 years down the line that we're still paying for this monthly subscription that we don't need, we don't use. I mean, for me right now, it's the gym. I haven't been to the gym in time, but I have a gym membership. So it's just, you know, really looking at those numbers and deciding, okay, do I need this right now? Is this important? What do I value? I know that for me at this stage, it's about building and growing wealth. It's about, you know, having enough for my business. I've been through some experiences since founding my business, such as, you know, bereavement, you know, parents, family members, people that I hold really dear to me becoming ill. So this kind of stuff is really, really important to kind of get a handle over. So, you know, really directing your finances to those important areas. And for me, it's kind of, you know, being able to spend time with family, being able to build wealth for now and for the future. And also being able to enjoy life as well. It's not all about just, you know, scrimping and saving just to have no enjoyment. So we have to be able to enjoy what we're doing as well.
I agree with that. I think because there's a lot of like talk around when it comes to wealth building, investing in stocks, which I'm not opposed to, but I've been reading a lot of or listening to a lot of audiobooks on different things where I think you need to know when the right time is to invest in stocks, because stocks are not the only form of investment to start with. And my question to you, are stocks the only way to really build wealth?
No, because I think you can invest. The only thing I will counter with you is about, the right time to invest. I think we need to be in the market to be able to benefit from it, and we need to stop trying to time the market. So, there are a lot of people who do like things like day trading or forex trading, and that's where you're kind of, you're creating a plan to try and kind of beat the market. But I think what we can benefit from is having a strategic, steady plan of regular monthly investing. It's what we do with our pension. So if you've got your pension, if you've had workplace pensions from work, they build and grow over time. So, I don't know the age of your audience who is listening, but let's assume they're a young person, they're 22, they've got their first job, maybe they've finished university. If they start investing in their pension monthly, regularly, if they increase their pensions contributions as time goes on, as they get pay rises and so on and so forth, that person could be looking at a really healthy pot of money that's been invested in the stock market for over 20, 30, depending on when they want to access that money, when they get to retirement. If they invest in a diversified way, so not having all of your eggs in one basket. So for example, that could be investing, in the UK, in the US, in China, being invested across different sectors. So, tech and, green, whatever the different sectors are, they have a real risk of growing wealth. Not a real risk, a real possibility of growing wealth over the long term, and even growing wealth over the medium term as well. And you're right, there are different asset classes, so it doesn't have to be just in stocks and shares. It could be in property, it could be running and growing a business. But I think the important thing is having that ownership. Is key. That's the key message. Owning something is key.
Okay, right. I feel like I'm going to put these cards down because I want to unpack this, and I want there to be like a step-by-step guide, because I do think that there's a lot of talk around like investing in stocks, investing in different things, but sometimes it's just really not clear, like where do you even start with that? Because like you said, there are different asset classes. And from my perspective, I know, okay, where I want to invest. For me, currently, I'm investing in my business. That's my focus. And I'm going to be building that up. But for somebody listening, whether 22 or potentially even older, like 30, potentially 40, those kind of people, I think sometimes it feels like it's too late to start doing something. But what are the step-by-step processes? Like if they wanted to start investing in stocks, let's say, what would be the step-by-step process to start doing that?
So I'd say definitely do your budget, work out how much you've got available to invest. I think it's really good to have a bit of an emergency fund put aside as well. So 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, your outgoing expenses, just so that if anything happens, you've got that money to fall back on, because investing is a longer term game. It's not for, money that you need in the near future. So it's probably, money that you'll need in the next 5+ years. So 5 to 30, 40 years. Maybe it's an investment that you hand over to someone else at the end, to your children, to build that generational wealth. In terms of starting, like I say, once you know how much you've got available, you can open up a stocks and shares ISA. I think we live in a day and a time where we can start investing from our phones. There's loads of apps that we can start investing from. Also, a place to start would be your pension, because typically your pension is invested somewhere. So if you've got a workplace, they offer you a pension scheme, making sure that you match it. So figure out how much is the maximum contribution that they are willing to make. And you might match that, or you might go above that. So that's a really easy and good place to start. And another thing to consider when it comes to our investments is when you're going to need the money back. So your pensions is for the long term, when you retire, when you get to 55 plus. Whereas, in between that, you might get on the property ladder. That could be used as some sort of investment. It doesn't necessarily have to just be somewhere that you live. A lot of people do things such as like a rent the room scheme, which is you get 7,500 before you pay tax on that you can have someone living in your house and renting a room. Or you can invest in real estate investment trusts, which are REITs. Again, these things that you can do through your phone, invest that way if you want to get into property. There's different asset classes operate differently. So things like your property, they're typically illiquid. So what I mean by that is that when you need the cash, you can't just sell a bathroom and get your cash from your house. You typically have to sell your whole house to get money back, unless you're invested in a way such as in REITs, or so real estate investment trusts. So different asset classes act very differently. Your pension, obviously your pension is locked away for a long time. You can't access your pension until 55 plus, unless you are ill, and then they might give you access to it early because, you know, something's going to happen. You need something for in between. So that's when you invest in something like an ISA. So we're recording this just as we're starting a new financial year. You get £20,000 ISA allowance every year, and it allows your investments to grow tax-free within your ISA pot. So there are lots of people who end up being ISA millionaires because they've been taking advantage of that £20,000 tax-free every single year since they've been able to invest. And it just means that it's money that's liquid, it's accessible. If they want to take that money and go and buy a property, or, you know, use it as a deposit for a property, use it for kids, use it to go and travel, they've got that money available for them as well. So I think it's really important. I know I'm saying a lot of stuff.
No,
it's
needed.
really important to be really clued up on different asset classes, how they work and operate, and also think about when you need access to the money that you're holding in those asset classes.
I'm glad that you've said that, because I was going to ask you, what is a good example of like a short to mid-term investment and a long-term investment, but I feel like you've made it quite clear. Yeah,
absolutely.
Where do you feel like a business would fit in that? If somebody wanted to start a business or invest in their business, what would you see that as?
It's a good question, because a business is something that's quite risky. You know, you are putting all of your money into this business, just like I put money into my business, and there's no guarantee. You know, we hope that the business is going to thrive and flourish and be here for the next, 5, 10, 15 years. You know, ideally someone's going to come along and buy that business from us. And it's a type of investment. So when we do kind of financial advice and planning, we do have kind of opportunities for people who are like a bit more, financially savvy, used to investing, to then take kind of next level risks, so take a bit more riskier investment. Also, again, it's another thing that you can do from your phone. Crowdfunding. I don't know if you've heard of apps such as, Crowdcube. They have different businesses on there that allow you to invest. I invested in an app called Free Trade. I think is it Free Trade? Like a financial app. I put in £500, and that's come back. I've got back £250. So it's not worked out. So I use it as an illustration to say, invest in, business is risky. If it goes well, if we are like the Teslas and Apples of the world, those businesses that are in kind of the S&P 500, or in the UK, the FTSE 100, which are the top 500 companies in the US and the top kind of largest companies in the UK, those companies are doing well. But when it comes to investing in kind of individual companies, you and I, it's a bit more of a risk. So I'd say where it comes in your own portfolio, I think the benefits of owning your own business is that, potentially you can grow it, you can scale it, tax-wise as well, compared to being, salaried versus, how you take money from your business. As a business owner, there's more favorable kind of tax benefits, but it's hard work. It's really hard work. So I think it's something that can be part of your portfolio, and hopefully, your business will pay dividends. You'll have opportunities with the business. At the same time, it's probably quite risky for a lot of people, but that doesn't mean you don't do it, because you get a lot of freedom. And a bit more favourable tax breaks.
It's true. I guess it comes down to like the goal of it, isn't it? Because I think with business, it's more than just the money. Obviously, like I feel like with a business, your earning potential is uncapped.
That's true. Yeah,
so that's one thing. Like I'm an advocate for business. Obviously, like with what I've done. But I guess it comes down to the goal, really, of it. So, but I feel like I'm jumping left and right, but I'm just thinking.
I'm just talking as well.
No, it's so helpful. I just feel like you're just full of so much information that actually a lot of people really don't know. Like some of the things you've mentioned, I know because I've done the research myself so that I can educate myself, but a lot of people don't know what is available to them. So going back to like the ISAs, you mentioned how there's an untaxed limit that you can put into your ISA. So if someone had an ISA, would you advise that they just put in the amount that is untaxed, or would you advise they put as much as they can, as in terms of if they wanted to go over that limit, is it advisable?
So I think it depends on how much money you have. You know, some people will have a day job that allows them to have lots of disposable income, so they'll reach that, you know, £20,000 cash ISA quite quickly, and then they might need to put money into like a general investment account, and they might need to do something called bed and ISA, where you're moving money as you need it from your general investment account, which has tax implications, into your ISA as you come and use it. So you know, one of the things that we do when we're working with clients is giving them all of those skills and those strategies to be able to do that, to use their money in the most tax efficient way. It could be putting money into their pension. So another thing that we do is sort of tax planning, so that, you know, we have clients who are in the kind of £100,000, £125,000 tax bracket, where you're paying around 60% tax mark. So we do clever planning with them to get themselves under that bracket, which could be, you know, lobbing a bit of money into the pension, and just making sure that you're under, so you get, you know, different benefits and you're not paying so much tax. So I think a lot of this stuff is stuff that we advise clients, but there is a lot of information out there online, and I think that's where the intentionality comes in. You have to really put yourself in a position to understand how to kind of make things work as best as possible for you. There's also, I think we also live in a time where there are lots of you know, people that you can get information from, lots of apps that tell you. So I do a lot of regular workshops for an app called Female Invest, and they're all about getting women to invest. So anyone listening, you know, go download that app, because it's brilliant. It will give you all of the guidance that you need when it comes to investing. So if you aren't able to speak to a professional, you can still get that information and knowledge. So yeah.
I really like that app. I think I've mentioned that app to my sister before,
Okay,
Female
yeah.
Invest. Yeah, because I love what they're doing, the fact that it's female owned. Why do you think that there is a gender disparity when it comes to things like investing? Because isn't it the fact that when women invest, they tend to get better returns?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we do. I think there's so many things at play. I think when you look at the marketing to women when it comes to money, it's all about saving, scrimping, you know, save money on your coffee, or save money, you know, buy cheaper clothes, whatever it is that you want to do to be able to, you know, be okay. The conversation isn't really about investing, and there's been some research done into it. So the messaging when it comes to money, you know, women are kind of secret spenders, hiding things from our partners, whereas men are, you know, encouraged to go and get that, I don't know, go and invest, you know, go and, you know, buy that car. I don't, you know, it's different language and different messaging, I think, number one. Number two, I think there is this thing around, particularly in the UK, about, you know, not being too boastful about money and what you want, and how much you want as well. When I'd say if we were in the US, different kind of culture
Very
when it
different.
comes to kind of building wealth and entrepreneurship. You know, I don't know what's better, but, you know, different. So I do think we're kind of taught to appreciate finance and money and investing in different ways, and I think that has an impact. Also, I know that for myself, apart from in a pension, I definitely know that my mum was in a pension, and I know that due to ill health, she had things in place such as, you know, her funeral, she's sorted, you know.
Yeah.
She would have had probably life insurance to make sure if anything happened to her, as she had her mortgage, that would be paid off, you know, we're not having to kind of just sell the house. But I think that was because she was born and she had kind of physical illnesses. So she was more cognizant. I know that my dad was a little bit more relaxed and carefree when it came to money. And these were my role models when it came to money. So, you know, they could only teach me so much about what to do. And obviously I wrote the book about money, so Black Girl Finance, Let's Talk Money. And it really opened up conversations with my parents about different things. So I know that my dad's now got something in place. Should anything happen to him, you know, he's now covered. But I think my point of saying all of that was just that sometimes our environments mean that we only learn so much.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to take, again, that intentionality. We have to be intentional about learning about this stuff, deciding what's important to us when it comes to money, and just not being deterred by what we may or may not know right now, because there's a whole wealth of information out there that we can kind of learn, and we have to do as well. That's another thing. Women are great at investing, it's been proven, but women tend to hold a lot of money in like cash ISAs. So there's different types of ISAs, cash ISAs rather than kind of investment ISAs. So I think apps such as Female Invest, this conversation, when you're speaking to a financial advisor or financial coach, we're going to encourage you to think about the benefits of investing. Be aware of the risks involved, because there are risks, but when it comes to investing, you have to bake in an element of risk in order to get some reward. And again, being diversified, understanding when you're going to need that money back is key. Being financially resilient, having that emergency fund, making sure that, I know that if I am unable to work for whatever reason, I've got my income protection in place. If I've got a mortgage, I know that I've got my life insurance in place. Anything happens to me, my house is going to be paid off. If I'm, cohabiting with a partner, and we can talk about so many things about that, because as I mentioned earlier, I've been through bereavement. I lost a partner, and we were due to be married. We weren't married. A whole host of implications there. And just making sure you've got things like a will in place, maybe putting things in trust as well. There's so many things that we should be doing just to make sure we're financially okay. And whether that's just for us individually now, or for having that generational wealth that we want to pass on to, our kids. I'm a mum. I think about, okay, what is it that I want to give to my son? What financial lessons as well as assets do I want to give to my son as well? So.
And I feel like generational wealth is a topic that comes up a lot, but there's a lot of talking, but not a lot of action. I think sometimes people think that, to pass on wealth to your kids, you need to be like this millionaire. Even a millionaire, I don't know if that will really pass on to the kids, but like, you have to be super wealthy with like something major to give them. But little things like getting life insurance can be the big difference, really.
Absolutely.
Like from leaving your kids in debt or leaving them with a bit of money.
Something that they can go away and have a deposit for a house, something they can go away, they can go and get, a further education without getting into a whole heap of debt. Like, we need to understand these practices and principles. So that's why I'm really excited to be here and be talking about this kind of stuff with you.
I feel like we honestly need a lot more time.
We do.
We've got a little timer there. There's literally like 5 minutes left on the timer, but I feel like it's so important. And this is why I've been like firing questions at you, because I do feel like, not only is it that a lot of people don't know, I don't think a lot of people really dig and do the research that they need to find out about what they can do to set themselves up financially. Like, it's actually a lot of little steps that you can take. It's not
just a little habit.
It's not a grand thing. But one thing I did just want to quickly ask, like, you mentioned how as women, we're not really encouraged to be boastful, and sometimes it can come across as boastful if you're sharing how much you're earning. And I see this a lot with like, certain content creators. When a man says something like, "Oh, this is how I earned £100,000 in 5 minutes," the response is very different to if a woman was to share the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do you feel, firstly, why do you think that is? And secondly, do you feel like despite that, more women should still share and be open about the kind of amount they're earning from different things?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, how we're perceived, how we're responded to, it's not our business, it's not our problem. The most important thing is understanding why you're doing those behaviors. Why are you going for that goal? What will it mean for you? I think we pay so much attention to, and are so afraid about people's reactions to us, and like I said, that's not our business. If someone has a negative reaction because, if I have a negative reaction because you are earning, more than me, and you decide to share that on social media, that's not your problem, that's my problem. I need to work on that. So I think we need to ignore that shouldn't be our biggest driving force, and I understand that it is. And I think there is a need to share. I think, some of the most impactful things that have happened for me have been when someone has said to me, Selina, look, maybe I'm going to go and do a talk, and this is what everyone I've quoted the price, and it's lower than what everyone else is getting. And that person that says to me, hey, this is what I'm going to pay you because this is what everyone else is getting, and I think it's fair for you. That's been the most impactful. When I was negotiating my book deal, speaking to someone who'd already written a book, they came to me and said, Selina, ask for more. we need to share, because like I mentioned earlier, there is a gender pay gap, there's an ethnicity pay gap. You know, we are living in a time where DE&I is being, you know, diversity, equity, inclusion is being, you know, wiped out, and you know, it's just a very negative thing at this moment in time. And I think we need to be cognizant of that, and we need to go out and we need to negotiate our worth, and we need to be, you know, prioritizing our finances, because I mean, I can't predict the future, but what I do know is, you know, if I've got an emergency fund, I'll be okay. If I've got kind of life insurance, I know that my house can be paid off if something happens to me. If I am unable to work, I've got income protection, I will be okay. I'll get part of my salary each month. I'll be able to continue to pay my bills. And if I do invest in the stock market, if I look back historically, although there are those dips, which can be quite scary, over the long term, the stock market is only trending upwards. So if you look at an image of the stock market, that's where I need to be, and it's ownership. So, you know, like I said earlier, you can invest in property through REITs, through the stock market. So it opens up access, and I think we need to be doing these behaviors that will make us okay financially. And a lot of these things we'll read, and we know that we should be doing them, because we speak to clients all the time. We know that we should be doing them, and sometimes you just need that push to put these things in place. So let's put these things in place.
Yeah, I completely agree. For anyone listening to this, what is the one thing they can do today to get their finances in order?
Build that emergency fund, especially at this time. Build that emergency fund, because it makes you resilient. It makes you be like, okay, I've got this pot of money here. Anything happens, I can rely on it. And it just means that you can focus on something else. A lot of us are, it's not a criticism, so I don't want this to come across as a criticism, but a lot of us are in kind of continual kind of survival mode. And we could argue it's because of the cost of living crisis, because of all of these things. But equally, there is probably an element of kind of financial mismanagement, not, you know, with the little bits that we have left over, not putting those bits of money to work for us, not being intentional with how we are kind of earning our, what we are doing with our money. So I do think we need to take real ownership and look at the numbers. You know, if I'm overspending, stop overspending. If I'm, you know, not earning enough, is there a way that you can earn extra income, and put that extra income to work for you? Yeah.
Selina, you're going to need to come back.
Oh,
yeah,
exactly.
we're going to need to have another one that's much longer than this.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, because that was a lot of like wisdom, financial knowledge in such a short space of time.
Yeah.
So is there any like projects or any projects, and how can people connect with you?
Yeah, so I started the business doing financial coaching, which is guidance. So all of that wonderful money information that you can get online, you can actually speak to myself or one of our coaches and get guidance that way. And we are expanding. So I'm currently a trainee financial advisor and planner. So I'm getting those qualifications so that I can, you know, offer clients the other end of the spectrum. So by the end of this year, praise God, thanks to God, you know, I'll be able to offer clients the full spectrum of kind of solutions and guidance and advice. Your viewers can get hold of me by going to www.blackgirlfinance.co.uk. We're also on Instagram. It's at blackgirlfinanceuk. So yeah, do come and have a chat with us. We'll guide you. We'll help you. We want you to build wealth, because it's so important.
Thank you, Selina. That was incredible. Incroyable.
Thanks for having me.
Speak a little bit of French.